Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Hello, good morning. My computer just yelled at me really loud. I didn't know I had the sound turned up that loud. Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about the joys of recovery, which is such a good topic. I think that so often in my meetings, we're all talking about the hard stuff, how hard it is, but I think it's important to stop and think about how much easier it is this way to live than it was the other way when I was turning to a drink anytime I felt anything, good or bad. When I was excited, I would get a drink. When I was sad, I would get a drink. When I felt nothing, I would get a drink. Um, and putting down the drink and starting to feel things purposefully is just an incredible way to live. I have found a life that I didn't know was possible. And I mean that literally. I did not know it was possible for me to feel this way. Somebody said in one of my meetings, I love on a higher level now. And went to AA to stop drinking. And what I actually found was just an entirely new way of living. Um, and it may seem like fluff, but man, it is. Like you can sit in a meeting in the beginning and look at the steps on the wall and be telling yourself, like, it's not for me. There's God and there's God mentioned in all of the steps. I'm not, for some people, that's a big deterrent. Um, and for me, it was a little bit. It was a deterrent, but I was so desperate. Like, unfortunately, we reached this point of desperation where it's like, I don't care what it says on the wall. All I know is that what I've been doing isn't working. And recovery is like, it seems like in the beginning, like I wanted to get my old life back. I wanted to be able to drink in a healthy way and have life be good like it used to be, 10 years prior. I used to be able to drink that. I mean, that's what my mind was telling me. I used to be able to drink and everything was fine. But it wasn't. It wasn't fine. And 10 years ago, um, back when I entered sobriety, 10 years prior to that, things weren't fine. I just didn't know it. I became less and less blinded to the actual tragedy that was my life unfolding as more things started to fall apart. So the promises of AA, typically there is like a sign on the wall with the steps on it. And then there's also a sign that has all the promises. And I remember reading those promises about financial security, about not, you know, not closing the door on the past, not regretting the past, and just being like, there's no way. But okay, I need to do something because uh, my life is falling apart. Um, so I feel like sobriety did not restore joy in my life. It just completely blew out of the water any definition of joy that I ever used to know. Um, Recovery gave me new relationships with my family members, even though I was surrounded by my family members. I mean, I remember vividly going on family vacations with my family. And I'm sad to say this, but it's the truth. I went on family vacations and I did not feel like I was part of the family. I felt like nobody listened to me. I felt like anytime I spoke, I felt like I was just ignored. They, I know, didn't do it purposefully, but I think it's because I didn't have anything to give. I wasn't being a part of the conversation. I think when I spoke, I was trying to do these get attention, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I was trying to be a part of, but I didn't know how to be a part of. Um, they didn't know what was really going on with me. They didn't know um, that I didn't even feel comfortable being in the room with people talking. I didn't know how to be a part of it. Um, and that included my family at home. I didn't know how to just be, to exist without wearing this mask over me. Because I felt like an open wound all the time. I felt like I I needed the alcohol to be a better me. And that was my own bizarre thinking back then. Um, what it was actually doing was it was muting the real me. Um, Today, I feel like I have a just complete, I mean, I do. I don't feel like I do have a different relationship with everybody in my life, with every family member. It's like I said, I love on a higher level. I'm able to give. It's not all about me anymore. I really try to make it about other people. Like that's what I want to do. And that connection has replaced isolation. And I feel like I'm able to celebrate everybody's victories, you know? I feel like I can carry people through their losses. My loved ones, my dearest family members, I am able to be present enough and stable enough in my own life that I can carry other people. Um, but it took time to learn who I am without alcohol. When my life was revolving around alcohol, I didn't actually know what I liked. Um, because everything I participated in, I only participated because there was alcohol there. I remember when after I graduated from high school, no, from college. So I played volleyball in high school and then I went off to college. I came back home and every day, every evening, I would go play volleyball in some different location, whether it was at a friend's house where they had like a sand volleyball court, or if it was, at a park or wherever. We all had a place to play volleyball, and we'd all come together and play volleyball. We would drink, and so I thought, yeah, I love volleyball. I love volleyball. No, I didn't. I mean, I do like volleyball, but I was going there. Like, if I really think about what my intentions were, I was going there for the alcohol, and the volleyball just happened to coexist with the alcohol. So when I stopped drinking, it was a process of self-discovery. What hobbies do I enjoy? Do I actually enjoy? And I'm going there for the sport or the activity, not for the alcohol that's present there. There was even a restaurant in our town. We lived in Charlestown, West Virginia. There was a restaurant named John's that has since closed, unfortunately, but we wouldn't go there. When I was drinking, we wouldn't go there because they didn't serve alcohol. So I missed out on years of eating at John's, and it was delicious food. So finally, when I got sober, we went there, and that became my favorite place to go. So, what things do I enjoy now that I'm not hyper focused on how I'm going to get my drink while I'm there? What actually makes me laugh? What brings me peace of mind? In retrospect, I didn't know what peace of mind was back then. So I wasn't just recovering from alcohol, I was getting to know myself for the first time. And it felt like I hadn't seen myself um, in 20 years. I hadn't really seen myself since I used to ride a bike, truly. So I had a lot of catching up to do. And doing things sober is way better than I imagined. At first, it's definitely uncomfortable because I needed something in my hands. So I would always make sure that I had like a sparkling water, a can of sparkling water. That was my big thing in the beginning. Um, and that worked for me. I was vaping. Yeah, I was vaping. I had already quit smoking after my second time at detox, but then I picked up vaping like immediately. Um, and then after I got out of detox for the second time, I finally weaned myself down on the nicotine for vaping and I quit vaping. Um, what is my point? Oh, having something in my hand. So that thing I used all the time because I needed something in my hand. Um, Eventually, what I did, and I've mentioned this before, when I would go to something, whether it's a cookout or a holiday or a vacation or happy hour, whatever it was, I practiced not holding anything in my hands. And I watched other people. I watched people who did not have a drink in their hands. I watched to see what they did with their hands. This is really true. Um, I thought that relaxing meant that I had to have a drink. So I felt like if any of you have seen Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell, there's a scene where he's being interviewed. Will Ferrell is being interviewed, and as they show him in the camera for this interview, his hands keep coming up. If you're looking at the camera, I'm doing it or looking at the screen, I'm doing it. And he would just hold his hands and the interviewer was like, you don't have to hold your hands up, just put your hands down. He's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. So every time he was trying to answer the reporter, his hands would just come into the shot. And it was hilarious, but it's a great example of how I felt like when I was at any of these activities, I didn't know what to do with my hands. So I watched what other people did. I really did. And that's how I learned what to do with my hands, that I don't have to do anything with them, that I can just put them down by my side. And it's, it's like, when you're walking up the stairs from a dark basement and everything in you is screaming at you to run. That's what it feels like to hold your hands down by your side when you're so used to holding a drink in your hands. But the reward of practicing that instead of drinking is tenfold. Like once you get comfortable doing that, you finally, it's like the veil gets lifted over your eyes and I'm like, "Oh, this is people having fun. This is what people do when they're not drinking." And you may notice, this is no fun. I don't want to be here. And that's part of the growth process too, is figuring out what my intentions are. Why am I here? Um, am I here because I wanted to somehow slip a drink? Or am I here because I like these people? And I definitely found myself in situations where I was like, this is not me anymore. This is not where I want to be. I'm not getting anything from this activity, and I'm not able to give anything to the activity. My first sign that I needed to leave was when if people were drinking around me, like I'm thinking of like a work happy hour. As soon as I'm having a conversation with somebody and they either ask me a question and get distracted and don't listen to my answer, or they start slurring, that's when I head out the door. So, recovery allows me to leave a situation like that, get home, look in the mirror without shame, and trust myself and respect myself and genuinely love who I'm becoming. Um, I remember not too long ago, 3 years ago, I remember recording a podcast and saying, I love me in the podcast. And it was really the first time in a long time that I felt like I don't know where I'm going and what I'm going to be, but I know that I'm happy as long as I'm with me. Wow, I just did a poem. But it was true. That's the freedom that comes from living with integrity. Self-respect grows with each honest, hard decision that we have to make. Um, I guess it might be the big book that says our love can be on a higher plane, but recovery has changed the way that I love because I stop needing other people to fix me, and I stop loving people through this fear that I'm going to lose them, or loving them through the need to control them, or loving them through dependency. Like I'm capable of loving with patience and honesty and being of service and accepting people, whether they are strangers or my closest, dearest loved ones, loving them with acceptance, accepting who they are. And healthy relationships become possible because I'm healthier. And I'll never forget when my brother called me because he didn't have anyone else to call and he needed me. And that was the most incredible feeling, to be able to be there for him, because my brother is the one who carried me. And I finally got to carry him. And I would never, ever, ever have been able to experience that had I not gotten sober. Um, I get to feel my feelings purposefully. Um, yeah, I still have hard stuff, but my program teaches me not only what to do with the hard stuff or what not to do, right? To pause with the hard stuff, but also the fact that I can feel joy during that hard stuff, that joy and hardship can coexist. Um, I'm learning still that feelings are information that help me look inward. They're not instructions on how to behave. And I've mentioned that several times recently. I can pray. I try to remember to pray. You know, it's funny, my sponsor the other day with my poison ivy, that is finally starting to dry up. Finally, I still have itchiness, but um, because I got prednisone for it, my husband went and got that for me. And not, I don't want to stray off of the topic, but and I just did. So, oh, my sponsor said, I was telling her like the poison ivy is unbearable. It's unbearable. It makes me want to scream. It makes me want to rip my skin off. And she said, have you prayed about it? And I was like, my first reaction was like, what in the kale do you think praying would do for my poison ivy right now? But it's for me in my prayer life, it's not that the prayer would make the poison ivy go away, but it brings me closer to understanding I'm not alone, being able to manage, emotionally manage having this extreme feeling of wanting to rip my skin off. So, feeling the feelings without letting them overwhelm me or affect my emotional sobriety. Um, I have to remain emotionally available and not being afraid of my emotions and having them make me react to things, but again, feeling my feelings purposefully. So, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I think we spend a lot of times talking about the hard feelings, and we should because that's really what the overriding stuff is when we put down the drink, because that's what I was numbing was the hard stuff. But it the program teaches us not to be afraid of our feelings. And it helped me to understand that my depression that I deal with, I always felt like, how can I articulate this? I always felt like if I felt sad or I felt sorry for myself, then that was my depression, and that always gets the final word. um, that when I'm grieving, that's it. That's where I'm at. That when I'm hurting, that's it. That's where I'm at. And I couldn't be happy. I couldn't find any joy. It's I wanted to punish myself. It's as bizarre as that sounds. It goes back to like when was I used to punish myself by not eating when I felt that way. So if I was upset with something and I wouldn't eat, that's because I felt like I deserved to not feel good. It was all craziness in my head. But I talked my psychiatrist said to me once, and it's not that I didn't know this, but for her to say it almost gave me permission that joy is not the absence of pain. It's knowing that the pain isn't getting the final word, that I can grieve and still laugh. I can be scared. And that's what I've been a lot since my stroke. I can be scared, but I can still move forward. I can still walk forward and being scared of what's ahead of me. I can still hurt and be grateful. So these two things can exist at the same time. They can be true at the same time. And when I started realizing that, it was like, okay, I'd feel some self-pity for, oh, I had a stroke and now I can't do all these things. But then I would remember, oh, she said that I can feel joy and feel this way at the same time. And that taught me this, it taught me how to walk through acceptance with still with without letting go of the fear, you know, without ignoring the fear, without acting like the fear wasn't there. When I'm accepting my life the way that it is with my disability, I'm still afraid. I still record and talk through all these things, and I'm still working through acceptance and surrender and gratitude and willingness. I can't express enough to you that I'm working through these things on a daily basis. But those same tools that became essential for me when my life changed when I got sober are the essential tools that I still use today. I still, as you can see, like my program, my sobriety program did not prevent the hardship that was ahead of me having my stroke, but my program prepared me to walk through it. And that's when I get to say I practice these programs. I practice these principles in all of my affairs. Recovery has taught me how to experience some of the greatest miracles that I just didn't know I was capable of. I'm not alone anymore. Recovery gave me people back. The people that used to be around when I rode my bike, they're still here. I just wasn't giving them the attention. I didn't have any purpose in my life. I now have purpose. I now am able to give. I have a relationship with a higher power that I still don't understand. And I want to keep it that way. As long as I don't understand it, I get to keep seeking. And my program gave me hope when I couldn't create the hope on my own. Um, Without addiction, I have connection. When I was in active addiction, I was not connected to anything. I was alone. I was isolating. And today, joy is not something that happens to me. It's something that I work towards. I work towards by practicing gratitude, by getting down on my knees and praying before I go to bed every night, thanking God for my sobriety, for not smoking, for the willingness to recover, for my body. And I ask that thy will be done, not mine, because thy will is what has gotten me here. When I try to squeeze my fists around something that I can't control and open them and see that there's nothing in them, I'm just squeezing and wasting my energy. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm just resisting. And when I get to just open my hands and just hand it over, I get to see the beauty. Because when I'm squeezing, I'm looking down, I'm looking at my fist, and I'm just squeezing and I'm holding on to nothing. And when I open my arms and welcome other people, my higher power, I find the beauty in the world around me and the people around me. And even though happiness comes and goes, the joy still remains. And I think that's the difference between happiness and joy. I think that joy is like a state of mind, while happiness is like, yeah, I'm happy when I'm painting, I'm happy when I'm walking my dog. But the joy is something that can replace that depression that I thought was um, my destiny, really. I still experience grief. like I said, fear on a daily basis. I still have difficult days, lots and lots of difficult days, but I also experience um, joy in a completely different way. I I can work hard at hard things and I can still laugh. I can carry pain without allowing it to steal my peace. And um and I can truly live. Like that is a life worth protecting. And I'll do anything. I'll do anything to stay sober, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, because it's worth being able to love myself, to get to live with me every day. You know, that may sound arrogant, but I don't think anybody should live any other way. We have to live with ourselves. And this is the best way that I have found to do it. So thank you for listening today, and I will talk to you next time.